God. There is one God who exists eternally. He is the Almighty Creator. How can we know that God exists? Well, there are many strong clues regarding His reality. Evidence is the sum of those clues that, when seen together, help us discover the truth. And there are clues for God that, when looked at collectively, show us that God exists. We can't see God, but like the wind, there are many reasons or evidences or clues to believe that God does exist because of what He does. Well, for starters, we're here. And not just us, but the whole universe. People talk about cause and effect. None of us were around to see how the universe began, but the very fact that there is something, rather than nothing at all, needs an explanation. There must be a cause behind an effect. The universe is the effect, so something must have caused it. Anything that exists in the universe had a beginning, and to come into being needed to be caused to come into being. There's talk, isn't there, of Big Bang Theory, but that can't even answer the basic question of how did that even get started? What about before Big Bang? Many concluding that there still must have been something outside of what we now know and understand of the universe and nature. Everything has a cause and effect. What could the cause of the universe be other than God? But who created God, someone might say? Everything we know has a beginning. Every river has a source. Every story has its start. The universe had a beginning too. As we look at everything we know having a beginning, there comes a point where we have to settle on there being something for which no explanation from what we already know is required. Otherwise, we have this thing that some people call infinite regress. We have to end somewhere with something outside of what we already know. The Bible starts by saying, yes, the universe had a beginning. Everything that we see had a beginning. But God didn't have a beginning. It doesn't put forward an explanation regarding God's beginning. It just says He was. He was there before everything we know and everything we can see. And the first verse of the Bible confirms He created all we know and was before it all. It states, in the beginning, God. And then it says, created the heavens and the earth. The Bible later describes God as eternal. He didn't have a beginning, and He will never end. Yeah, it's hard for us to understand, I know. But so is the idea of space being, well, infinite. Remember Buzz Lightyear, to infinity and beyond? Can you really get your head around that idea of space being so vast? I can't get my head around it. And so the idea of an eternal God who had no beginning, but always has been, yes, it is hard to understand. But the Bible is adamant that's the way it is. And the way the universe works suggests an amazing creative designer behind it. Everything is in perfect balance for life to exist. A famous scientist called Francis Collins noted that in the universe there are a number of things that need to be in perfect balance for there to be life on Earth, and especially for us human beings to survive here. He says all of these things, which are called constants, have precise values. And he said this, if any one of those constants was off by even 1 part in a million, the universe could not have actually come to the point where we see it. So we wouldn't be here, we couldn't live. The complex nature of this universe implies that there must have been a designer. Just one detail, if we were a little bit nearer the sun, we'd all be burnt up. If the Earth was a little bit further away, we'd be frozen. Look at your device that you may be holding in your hand or the TV that you're watching. If you look at how complex it is, how many things are involved in it, how many people put it together, how much design work was required, we would never think or guess or work out in a million years that this device, this TV, this phone, this computer just put itself together. And even then we can't explain where all the bits came from, all the raw materials. As we look at the order in the universe, complex design, there must be an order maker, a designer. It can't be just an accident. We're not just an accident. Generally speaking, the Bible says that we know deep down there is a God. In fact, Romans 1 says this, People know the truth about God. He's made it obvious to them. For ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and the sky. Through everything God made, they can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power, his divine nature. So they have no excuse for not knowing God. Well, that first verse in the Bible tells us straight. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God exists and always has. He is eternal, and all that we see and know was made by him as the Almighty Creator.